Hello, my name is Vicky Butterfly. I'm an international performer and I've been talking about some of my inspirations. I think now I'd like to share with you something about Edward Gorey. Edward Gorey was an illustrator and to some extent writer and sometime also theatre designer. Edward Gorey had a very specific graphic style that comes from a slightly indistinct place somewhere between the 1890s, or maybe the 1870s and the 1930s. Somewhere quite weary, maybe somewhere quite decadent. It's very dark, it's quite morbid. His style is always instantly identifiable, and it's very quite heavily worked, if that makes any sense. He actually puts himself in the work sometimes quite a bit, not by name, but there is a style of character often seen behind who's very much based around, actually when you see a picture of him, he looks exactly like that. And often the path of the story is something almost inexplicable, where almost nothing really happens and nothing is explained. And it's unsettling. It's always very unsettling, and his stories are everything from a short story called something like The Uninvited Guest, about a guest who comes to stay, who looks a little bit like maybe a bit like a penguin, but isn't really a penguin or any animal. He's quite a sort of like cool. It's almost like a alpha Machinist, weaselish creature who just comes to stay. No one knows why he's there. He makes people feel quite weird, and then he just goes. Or things like something similar, almost like a couch that is implied that it eats people, but doesn't really say it does. No one ever sees it happen, and he doesn't explicitly say it does either. There are all these very unsettling, quite abstract stories that almost these are some ABCs. Like there's an A to Z of demises of orphans. And the kind of Victorian orphans, like E is for Enid, who died of ennui. And there's like a little picture for each one. Like things often have tragic, they follow the format of almost the idea of you have the parent, like almost like the rags to riches tale, but then it just falls apart and it's much more realistic. I think the crux of a lot of the work of Edward Gorey is that sometimes unpleasant things happen for no apparent reason, and that often other people don't really care. I like the realistic. I like the kick in the tail. I like the element of darkness behind things. There's always an element of looming darkness, and with some of my work there is an element, I feel, maybe even if it's just from the concept and it's not what other people take away from it, that there might be a dark thread running through it that's also maybe more realistic than fantasy.